Good morning, everyone. Thank you, each and every one for coming. We appreciate the planning commission being here, the Shelbyville Power, Water and Sewer Board, as well as our city staff and city council members this morning. It is Wednesday, January 28th. It's about 12 p.m. And, we would like to call this meeting to order right now. And our first item on the agenda is public comments. Lisa, do we have any?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, we'll move forward then. Thomas E. Bachelor. I've got. Thomas, how you doing?
And I will appoint my buddy here.
Community development, and he's got presentations for us, so if you have any questions, anybody needs anything, please let us know. Tom, the floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let's see, Kate, can I? Okay. I have to coordinate with my IT here.
I go.
All right. Oh. And it is not Monday, it is Wednesday. Let's see. It's, maybe you need to, yeah, I can't seem to get this thing to work. Oh, there it is. Okay, I pointed towards you. All right, so this year we had a little bit of growth in terms of annexation. 0.06 square miles added to the city. Oh, I gotta click this way. As far as where we're going and what types of growth that we're doing. And as I was discussing with Jason Reese, and he can concur, our growth rate matches more what retail strategy shows, which is 1.7%. And even though our numbers of lots and developments are showing in our database, I'm working on the planning report, which will reconcile, which will actually show the different types of growth and in their different categories, and actually show what I'm saying is that these numbers can be misleading if you just look at the actual numbers. So our population is about 25,445, the last count, and have 1.7% annually. That is what our growth is. We had about 129 applications last year, which is a little bit down. This is a residential application. And where we actually have our majority of our, I would say that our true growth is in our non-residential growth. And that was cut. There we go. So you see that we had both industrial square footage that was developed, and most of it was covered by actually by a couple of projects. Walmart DC, and then MTSU, which is under the institutional and educational. Go back to, okay, there we go. So you can see the number of preliminary plats that we've had for this year and how many number of lots within those. But the final plat is really what we want to look at for where the lots are actually created. And you can see this year's 164. We have in this already in the start of this year, we have probably about concept level as well as final plat about 500 coming in the next couple of months. And let's see here. Where's this development occurring? I didn't show any previous one, but you can see where in the north, Walmart DC, you have a lot of airport hangars. Paul can attest to that. Duxon, they're doing some expansion or proposing some expansion if they can provide us with the final information. You see the annexation, and this annexation in a commercial that's shown right here with Dr. Wilhelm is we're doing internal reconciliation as well, calling that from just past records where things were maybe not done in a proper process. And so we've added that area back into the city. And then you see MTSU. Then other areas, you see preparations for the commercial, more activity around the bypass. You see, this is Greg Curl's property. McDale Point, this was a unusual case this year where we had a variance where the property owner lost their vested rights to development for the 150 single-family development lots, but they do have a concept in coming in for similar. You see Briarwood over here, that is in this year, in 2026, for approximately 150 plus single-family lots. There's also activity along the bypass here that will encourage connection onto the bypass. We had a TDOT meeting yesterday discussing that, so they're proceeding forward with that. You see a lot more higher density higher density townhome units. Victory Park, 150 townhome units is proposed. That is in this year as well, 2026. Cedar Glade PUD, we actually had the 48 townhomes is also in this year as well, but since it's pretty close to this growth meeting, I figured I'd just show you that. This PUD also has a reduction of 39 townhome units to convert those to commercial lots. So even though there's 48 coming here, we've got 39 that are leaving in that PUD that was just recently approved as far as the pattern book change on that. And then you have the Walmart store rehab that occurred. Let's see. This is that area around the bypass connection is being proposed that connects all the way up or from Briarwood concept all the way up to the bypass. And then this front area, this area was recently annexed into the city, 25.33 acres. Front end is commercial. Back end is still, these are, both of them are vacant lots, undeveloped at this point. But everything is being prepared for upcoming development.
Let me slow you down a little bit.
Sure.
On the Briarwood there, that's the runoff of Ridgedale Lane.
That is correct, sir.
It was 132 we had in our planning commission the night. You got 150 there.
Yes, I counted their lots. They didn't have a summary on there, but I believe when he was speaking, and this is still concept level. So because during the concept comments back to him, there were some unbuildable lots, or what they were proposing was not necessarily buildable. So this is just an estimation.
To kind of give folks an idea, all that traffic's not going to come out on the Fairfield Pike. Show them about where you think they're trying to do an entrance and exit onto the bypass across that 25-acre property.
Certainly. So the concept shows 4 connections. There's a stub here. There's a stub here. There's a stub on the west of Ridgedale, and then there's the developer's working on a connection up to Fairfield Pike here. And so initially, once developed, there will be a connection on Ridgedale as well as on the bypass. This bypass process is probably a 14-month-long process. We met with TDOT yesterday. Everybody's in concurrence and supporting that connection, but now they have to go through the work of the right-of-way acquisition, which is usually a 14-month-long process or longer. So we've got the connection onto Ridgedale here as well as the connection north. These ones will just be ready for any type of connection, cross connections.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, I'm going too fast here. The other areas that are still in process or different stages, Idle Acres was last year, or I should say it was beginning of January 2025. That is section 1. They're working on the rear section now. Ascot Park PUD has still, it hasn't been, we've only seen the concept for it. So this one, this area, if you recall from planning commission meetings, any planning commission members, both Summit View Townhomes and Ascot Park are impacted by the sewer moratorium. So they're restricted on the number of buildings or housing units that they can actually develop. Ascot Park is still working on their concept. They have not resubmitted. But I just wanted to point out that there's preparations for development. Summitview Townhomes was just approved back in November for approximately 29 out of 63 townhome apartment units. And then you have Old Nash Estate, which is not, actually over here, which is moving slower, as well as Midtown Estate. Those are moving slower. You could see the slowness occurring in residential development throughout the country. Stonewall Run is in various stages of their final plat and construction as well. And then the other location, Remington Farm PUD, that is coming back onto the agenda for the Planning Commission, and then we'll be returning to City Council here in the next couple of months with 180 less dwelling units. So that is where the development is occurring. And then, if there's any questions, you can just feel free to ask me anytime at this point. I don't want to take up everybody else's time. And, but I wanted to also show just, typically whenever there's any type of planning initiative or any type of implementation of a different code, it takes about 3 years to 5 years where you start seeing the effects of it. And in 2022 is when the design standards were adopted. And you're seeing it now. These are all commercial developments. And Dawn, is one of these your projects? No, I don't think your project's there yet. But
That was across the street from my home.
yes, this one's near yours.
Yeah.
So Extreme Flooring is one of them. You see Cooper Steel. And then this is James Fair's property project out by the New Bedford County development near the airport. And you see all of these you'll see more of the design standards where we're having a lot more vegetation around parking lots, different building materials. But a lot of times you don't get to see the finished product as planning commission members and city council members. And then the other aspects that I wanted to review are more just how our staff, the planning staff, is addressing the growth or the direction that they're pursuing. One of the items that I've been talking about with planning commission members, as well as I think I mentioned it to city council as well, is that to start actually, it may be easier if I go to this appendix. So our code right now was written at a time that worked at that time. But what it did was it generalized a lot of the different types of uses so that you could do it in a lot of different areas. And so, and I pulled out this one example because car dealerships is permitted in the core of the city, which is the Main Street area of the city. Now it looks like supplementary regulations were created to minimize those uses. And so there's no really discrimination of land uses, and maybe there's certain things that might want to start thinking as far as design goes to restrict certain types of uses, and especially proximity. And I pulled out this one from vape shop because everybody asks me about vape shops all the time. There's a significant numbers that cluster together, and this is an example from Murfreesboro where they started separating different types of uses that might bring down other types of uses in terms of their value. And so if I return back to this, our largest area that we have opportunity for narrowing or controlling the types of uses to produce higher value type of commercial property is along the bypass. And the bypass corridor, that area our future land use map calls for doing mixed, higher density residential as well as commercial in that corridor area. And, maybe at some point it extend further, and especially when you see that development of the Briarwood estate that's connecting along here, it'll start, this area will become more and more developed. But uh, if you have area, or the way that our appendix is written, it will allow for a lot of varying types of uses that maybe uh, should be rethought. So the reason why I bundled, well, even though I separated on the agenda about open space and buffering definitions, stormwater management and access management, they're all interrelated, as well as the development fees. Because in order to start changing our table of land use, which will be a significant project, we have to make step projects or steps in our process in order to get to this change. And so the definitions will be the first one uh, within our changes. So this is just an example of different types of zoning districts that are more specific. And I think Councilman Blevins had mentioned something about changing some of the density of smaller types of cottages or residential lots. And this is one example of where you can start getting into a lot of different types of residential unit uses, as well as commercial, industrial, things like that. And then also expanding the definitions as well as the types of uses to be more specific. And so that's what we're working on. Here's some of my little peeves of definitions that are within ours. You can see ours, how it's generalized when it talks about, and in this case, it's talking about dustless materials and the use of gravel, because the way that our code reads right now, it can be very restrictive, especially when you're looking at industrial activities like the use of gravel, and maybe it's not the best to just require hard surfaces like concrete and asphalt everywhere. And so, changing some of the just small changes in the definitions of what materials are, where they can be used.
Yeah, no, I was wondering, I wanted to impart some advice with some of this language changing, not necessarily just in industrial, but when you're doing your residential developments and you have the residential buildings that are like back to back and whatnot, you might want to include some language that requires the use of non-combustible materials when the houses are less than 30 feet tall.
Sure.
Because it seems like we're overlooking a lot of that.
Yeah, we changed it in our PUD. Our PUD definition, where they're allowed to have 7.5 feet as their minimum, or as their minimum side yard setback. That one had some examples in there, or other provisions in there about coordinating with fire, whether sprinkler system or materials as well. So, yeah.
I mean, when you're less than 30 feet, you're required to have that external wall, your fire rated wall, which includes fire rated materials on the commercial side. Residential, there's a little bit of leeway, but for us, I believe that we should consider looking into that a little further and making sure that, you have a 5-foot setback, you have the ability to have one house being the next house, and the access for the fire department is limited. And then if you're using, stainless vinyl siding, that's going to melt and the house is going to, and the whole neighborhood goes poof. And we should be cognizant of making sure that if the houses are that close together, and making sure those exterior walls are.
Sure. And And one of the things that I believe is that even though those are uh, technically building or fire safety, uh, that those are regulated by those, I still believe that within our zoning ordinance, they should just refer, make aware, because that's the whole point, is to make you aware of what the regulations are. And then I'll move on to our favorite, open space. Because one of the issues that we found with our open space definite, or the way that we have it as defined in our code, is you can see it, our current one doesn't tell you actually how to calculate it or what's included in it. And so you have a lot of novel ways of it being presented. I didn't provide those examples, but we all know what they are. From our planning commission knows what they are. But here's some couple of examples that maybe we want to consolidate it, or actually just have the way that it is calculated. And you can see what I've highlighted in black, just different areas. Now our PUD actually shows in there that stormwater features aren't in there, but it's always good to have in our zoning ordinance, as well as our subregs, or reference to it, have a specific definition, and that they be consistent across the board. But these are just two examples. I only cut and pasted a couple of them. This one definitely tells you like how it's actually, what is open space. I don't necessarily think that this one you start getting into where it's eligible is when you get into really high density areas, and maybe we'll need it at some point, but I don't know if it's necessary right now. But these are just um, they're concepts, and we're about to come up into, I think it's in the spring is when we'll start having workshops with the planning commission to review the subregs as well as the zoning ordinance. And this is where all these will come up, and there'll be a lot more opportunity for commenting, as well as saying, no, you're insane for doing this. Um, but this is our current one. We have a usable open space as well, and it may be that it could be consolidated. Um, and then as far as buffer yards, buffer is only found in PUD regulation and ours, and maybe the term, this is where we start getting into more of the definitional changes. And I'm working on the definitions right now, and I'll have that created. And so at the draft format, I'll present it well in advance so that there's plenty of opportunity to comment on it. Another thing is that maybe we want to actually start including appendix with graphics on buffer, because I can tell you that we only have a couple of different types of buffer. This is something I worked on years ago, of different types of buffering with different types of uses. Other one shows different types for parking lot. Here's another example. These are from Murfreesboro. And then where I'm going with this on and how it relates to stormwater management, which is another item on the agenda, is this. So this is our current standards for our design standards for parking lots. But since stormwater is going to become more and more important, each year it's getting more restrictive in terms of the regulations, and how it can help in the planning or our department is to start incorporating it into a portion of it for us. And I've already talked to Buck, wherever Buck, there he is. Buck and I have already talked about coordinating and some portions of stormwater to come over into planning as well. But this is just infancy. I think I just spoke with him last week about it. And then access management. Actually, I've been talking about this for a couple of years, but this time around, because the state legislature now requires a correlation between our development fees, as well as what we do. Um, we were going to review our development fees this year because I think it was updated maybe, I think this is coming up on 3 years ago now. And the only reason why it wasn't updated sooner had to do with just at the last time, I think when Waleed worked with Kay and our former MTAS advisor, Chuck Downham, uh, there was a there was inconsistent. It wasn't. We weren't able to align everything. But now I think that we're at a good position that we can work on getting this portion of it done. And the whole objective, you can see, it's the beginning framework for doing strategic planning for transportation. So I think that might be. I guess I'm coming down to some of my pet projects. Um, this one was something that uh, I found out about 3 years ago now, and it was a person in this section of the Forest Hill subdivision that uh, their property had been rezoned, and they wanted to actually do something. These are all residential properties, but it had been rezoned back in the early 2000s. And um, I have um, I have a grandmother that I'm working with on this project because she coordinated with all these property owners and they weren't aware of the rezoning. So we'll take it on as a city initiative to correct that because part of our zoning or our future land use map and our comp plan is preservation of some of these historic neighborhood. And Forest Hills, most of those houses are, I think in this section in phase one are from the 50s and 60s. And then I would say that actually all of the people in there are elderly. So that's what we're going to work on in this year. And then, well, I have Shelbyville Power up next. But I'll take any questions, and then I can also answer any questions later on as well.
Bill, what's the status on one out on Madison, I don't know if the hotel that was supposed to be behind.
Hampton Inn. So Hampton Inn finally, they're about to start. They're working on, I think they received their T-deck grading, their notice of coverage. They received that and they're just working on some final paperwork with us and then working on getting a pre-construction meeting. And I don't believe, and Brandon can confirm, they haven't scheduled that meeting yet, but it should be coming up in February is when they'll start grading on that.
They're still in the works, right?
Well, once they start grading, then the project will start moving along a lot faster than it has been. So.
Is that behind Dunkin' Donuts? Is that what we're
Yes,
looking at?
yes, sir.
Now, the development right below that, where we've got the Redstone Arsenal sign or something, that parcel beside the old doctor's clinic, right there on North Main, any development on that?
No, and I haven't heard anything from them about that property. I don't know, what they're waiting on or what they're actually doing on that. And I don't know if Retail Strategies has been able to, find out any more information than I have. So.
Thank you.
Tom, can you comment on the infrastructure, like finding different type of funding for that, about where we can start that discussion, and what's coming up?
Sure. There's a meeting coming up in early March. It's a breakfast up in Nashville that is, actually, I don't know too much about it. It was just something out of the blue, but there's been legislative changes that relates to funding for infrastructure. So I'll be attending that. Once I get more information on that, I can bring that back. And some things we do know about with the TIFs and the pilot programs and things like that. And I know that when we worked on Mike Matusik's property, when there was potential for Publix there, there were some discussions about why they didn't want a TIF. And it had to do with because it wasn't benefiting them.
Pros and cons to all.
Yes.
So that there's
Yes.
legislation, I think it's worthwhile exploring.
Yes, yes.
Type of infrastructure we're talking.
What's that?
What type of infrastructure are we talking?
Roadways. Yeah. Yeah, and
Or whatever, I mean, if there are other.
We'll say I hadn't heard about this meeting in March. They're gonna talk about some sewer or some water.
well, actually I can send it was somebody sent me an email and said, "Hey, you're invited to or sign up to go to this breakfast," but I can send it to you. But yeah, it's about some legislative changes that they're talking about that will help fund infrastructure.
Is that part of the Day on the Hill? March is typically Day on the Hill announcement for, and they have different days that they're focusing on different things. Can you send me a link to that?
Sure. I can send that. Yeah. So it'd be interesting. Well, I will turn it over to you, Jason. You're the man.
Okay, I don't have much to present, other than just our yearly growth figures, for the calendar year. And they're very comparable to what Tom shared earlier. As far as the system itself, we've kind of getting more of a, we're at the point where we're investing in the system, but we get landlocked, for lack of better term, especially with water. As the city boundaries expand, we start encroaching upon other utilities and things like that. So, new build outs, you won't see as much, but we do sort of continue to do a lot of capital investment just to make the system more reliable, and more resilient for our customers. Before I get ahead of myself, so our calendar year growth figures, and I'm giving you total number of meters, for the power, water, and sewer system. So for the power system, calendar year, we grew by 1.8%. So as of December, we had a total number of power meters, 11,957. So we're knocking on the door of 12,000. I was kind of hoping to get that before the end of the year, not quite there. When you compare that to 2024, that percentage was 2.9%. So, and then we had held around 3% from about 22, 23, and 24. So we've slowed some, but hey, we're not complaining about that at all. Our water system grew by 1.7%. That's just strictly Shelbyville water. That does not include Flat Creek. Compare that to 2024, that's 3.2%. And in our sewer system, as far as number of meters, grew by 1.8%. Systems, 2024, we've grown by 3.7%. I know there's always a lot of interest in our water withdrawals. So our average daily water withdrawal from the Duck River was 4.65 million a day. You all know we're rated at 10 million gallon a day capacity. We did have a max withdrawal in January of 2025 of 6.68 million. We've had a demand of about 8.5. Was that last January? So things are going smooth at the water plant. Like I said, I'll just give you some figures as far as capital expenditures and what we did in total at the system. So closed work orders that we closed out in the year 2025, our system total around 1.5 million, strictly capital. We also have some open work orders right now that we've been working on. Just haven't closed out. That's sitting right at about 260,000. So as far as the capital for 2025, you're looking at about 1.8 billion. The water system, it's more
There's not a lot of expansion in the water system per se. It's more or less us maintaining. So our capital expenditures, on the water system is about 300,000. But we've done a lot of maintenance. I'll share that with you in a few minutes. Sewer is the biggie. Closed work orders total about 735,000 for the year 2025. We have open projects right now, total 7.5 million. So 8.3 million is what's been invested in the sewer system just in this past calendar year. Thankfully, a lot of that's grants. A lot of that was direct appropriation from the state, through TSU, that we very much appreciate. Appreciate the city being willing to earmark the American Rescue Plan dollars to our Burke Creek sewer rehab project that we've got going on right now. So far, I'll just go ahead and share you some of those major projects. So right now, that little Burke Creek sewer rehab job, we've expended about 750,000 of that. But that will total up to be close to 3.2 million, which about 2.8 of it will be through the grant application. The rest will be coming from the system and local match. MTSU, at this point, it is online, and we've not finished out everything as far as that goes, so we will spend that $5 million. We were able to wisely take those funds once the city gave us those, and we put them in an interest-bearing account. So the interest we earned on that account paid for all of our engineering work on that. So we always try to take good care of, be good stewards of our funds, whether they're from grants or whether they're from our ratepayers. The Harts Chapel pump station project that was funded through a $1 million site development grant, those some other matches that the city and county put in together for economic development out there. We're getting ready to close that out, hopefully within the next month. It's going to be in total right around the $2 million mark. So the system is thrown in over close to 200 grand itself outside of we got the grant from the two bodies of government. I know this time a year ago, we had a lane in South Bend Boulevard closed for quite a while. That was a major job. John and his crew worked really hard on that. I commend them for it. If y'all don't see the conditions that they're having to work in. That was an emergency rehab job. That cost us $250,000. So, moratorium on the east side of town. Right now, we have expended about 230 grand just in system money, doing design, and trying to do some planning, do some flow monitoring, things like that. We're still thinking that's probably going to be in the $6 million neighborhood. We don't have that kind of money just laying around, so we have done some preliminary research into the bond market and waiting on those interest rates to come down. Right now, it's probably cost us about $10.5 million savings. So we're trying to do the right thing there. And then as far as just routine maintenance on the systems, our system in routine maintenance we spent about $500,000 in the year 2025. Over 750,000 on the water system and year 2025, and close to $500,000 in the sewer system. So, been a very busy year for all of us. Even though the growth has slowed down some, that's okay. We're able to focus more on maintenance and keeping a resilient system. Few things that we've got down the pipe, of course, the moratorium project Like I said, we will get started on that as soon as we get funding and we feel like it's a comfortable range. We're also going through a cost service study right now, on the sewer system. Trying to get, we've had so many major projects on the sewer system, that's going to be our next focus. Of course, we have our construction sewer rehab crew all day, every day. That's what they spend their time on, just doing small rehab projects, road crossings in the city, on the sewer system. The water system, our major water plant improvement project was finished up this time about a year ago. Coming up on our warranty, so we're doing some site inspections, things like that, with our consultants to make sure everything's good there before the warranty expires. John and I have some little pet projects that we'd like to do on the water system. So that's just a lot of areas where we have small 2-inch PVC lines. We'll try to get those upgraded some form to hopefully 6-inch up the line. Not 40. And then for the power system, one thing we're pretty excited about, I hope we get it. Last week we applied for a $3 million grant through TDEC. What we're looking to do, there's a $4 million project, which $3 million comes from grant funds. We put in the big thing we'd like to do is a distribution automation system. So effectively what that is a self-healing system. So if there's an outage somewhere, there's a set of pre-closers all over our system that detect where that outage is and try to heal itself and just keep the bare minimum of people that can be without power instead of locking down the entire circuit system. We did a pilot project on that probably about this time of year ago, right, Jared? And took our main feed out of each of our 3 substations where they intersect Madison Street, fourth main intersection. We've been real pleased with it, but it's costly. It's about $3 million to do all our entire system. So when this grant opportunity came about, we can tell them hopefully we can get that award. Also going to do some old copper reconductor replacement to get it to heavier 795. That's what we've got going on right now. Like I said, Tom's map, kind of where the development is going. Of course, y'all know the further north things develop, we start encroaching on Becker County Utility. We started encroaching on Duck River. The power system, there is a mechanism where we can expand, we have to purchase territory from Duck River. We all know that as far as the water is concerned, that is a challenge. That also runs into the sewer. What's a reasonable distance? How far do we want to carry our sewer? Do we want to carry sewer in areas where we don't serve the water and things like that? So those are always questions to have. As you come along the bypass area there that Tom was showing, Briarcrest or whatever the name, Briarwood, those areas, we can serve those. Becker County's north of the bypass, so that's not something you have to worry about there. As you come a little closer towards the Mountain Road, we started approaching on more fronts in our system. Those are just little things to think about there. And so, like I said, those are styles for everybody to consider as far as the system's concerned. We landlocked some points and we got decisions to make on how to proceed, what's everybody. That we'll take any questions. We've got technical engineering jargon. I brought John and Jared with me, so I can tell you how much everything's going to cost. And
What kind of we've just annexed some properties into the city. The Wilhelm property out there, 10 acres. What kind of cost are you looking at to purchase that service territory from Duck River or something like that that's not being served? Are you,
We've not even looked into that because Duck River has franchise agreement on that territory from back in, Walmart, DC.
okay, right,
And, part of what went on there years and years ago, late nineties, system at the time and administration, they had substation needs inside what I call the city.
I remember that.
At the time, we only had the substation right there by our office.
Right.
And, they really needed a substation, which became over here on Blue Ribbon, or, we call it Blue Ribbon Substation over by Eaton on Allen Smith. And then, a few years later, they would even build one back to Range. So they didn't want to invest in, that far. So the River swooped in and said, hey, we'll do it, but we want long-term agreement for the city. And I understand. So, so the city signed a franchise right over that river for that, and then that territory's yours, right? I don't think anybody would have thought just Walmart distribution, they run the jail, would be there, the hospital, they were there, the dialysis clinic, would be there. Those were three top 10 water districts.
Yeah.
And so it's,
We just didn't know.
yeah,
When Duck River decided to build that substation, we had residential growth.
right.
We didn't know about all the other growth. We
Right.
thought it would happen.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know. What about Briarwood? You said you can handle that on, off of Richdale. The commercial property that's just been, annexed into the city, right there on the bypass, you'll be serving that?
Yes.
And that's,
I think I'm speaking of that, right? We can serve anything south of bypass.
There's some infrastructure improvements we thought after we can do those items, get us a little faster.
Of course, we got plenty of power capacity out there,
Yeah.
buddy, to do that Fairfield box.
And that's awesome, Jared. He had his pre-prepared. They give us a good deal, and I'm speaking like Jared, because we had one customer that actually had a limb fall on the service, and they had to take 5 people off that were on that transformer temporarily to fix the one and put them all back on. And for a winter storm event that we just went through, that's amazing. Jared has sent, Jason and Jared checked with Duck River first to see if they were okay, if they needed our crews. They said they were fine. Dixon was just in dire straits with 25,000 customers out. We sent, one crew to Dixon, expecting to be there all week. I think things are going pretty good down there, as bad a shape as they're in. And then when that crew comes back, they'll make an evaluation if there's other people in the Tennessee Valley, like Mississippi or somewhere else, and we can send another crew. Is that the plan?
That's the plan, which we get those. I appreciate you mentioning that, baby. Another thing we'd like to invest heavily in is a tree trimming program. And, I know it's a nuisance for folks. I get it. But hey, it's money well spent. And me as a financial guy, I'm like, oh my gosh, do we really got to spend this kind of money? But it's worth every penny. It's worth every penny. And of course, we didn't get as bad a weather, but if you look some of the pictures that we've got, I showed the board last night, what our guys are working in right now, that was just an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
You know, and it could have very well been this. And, but we felt like we were prepared and had precautions in place, you know, just in case. And we held our guys here just to make sure we won't get the cold snap, Monday morning before we felt comfortable sending the guys out. But that's why it's important. I know if citizens, we have customers that are upset because we may be there trimming trees and it's ugly. Mayor, you know from your time at Duck River, but when you're clearing right away, you gotta do what you can to get it out of the way. this was a storm of a magnitude that in some places it probably didn't matter how far. From some of the troops back, winds and things like that. They wouldn't come down on power line and call us, so, but we were very fortunate. We were very fortunate.
And hats off to John Freeman's crew on, reporting last night, Scott working hand in hand with the Shelbyville Fire Department on a huge fire on, West Highland, just before the storm. What a good job the fire department did, and, thank you, John, you guys are always prepared, nothing will be sure they had that for.
Dollar cent wise on Briarwood, of course, I know you talked about what they were going to give you as far as the developer on the property out there, Remington Farms. As far as how much money, and it would expand the system and make the system, work better in that area. Same thing at Briarwood, I mean, are you gonna have the cost, is that gonna be covered by the developer? Is it a break even type thing, are you making money, or?
The developer will, be responsible for all of the infrastructure. So they'll be responsible for all the new water lines, all the new sewer. And then they'll also have the development charge per lot that will, allow us to make upgrades on the system that's there now. Just to make sure we've got funding capacity. Remington Farms, I know that it's been kind of tricky.
Yeah.
As far as number of units that's decreased, well, that just decreased the amount of development charge. That project was, when we looked at it, 2023, I guess it was, John, was probably going to be somewhere in the $2 million range. We're waiting on a price back from our estimated cost from our consultants back on kind of what that's going to cost today due to inflation and things like that. I still need to send it along.
The bottom line is, you've got to break even, I mean, you don't make a whole lot of money off of it, you just kind of put into the system to install it, right?
Yes, sir.
And you don't have an estimate on the moratorium area out there, that's money, you were talking about.
It's going, it will be, it'll be 6 million at least.
And how, and you,
And
yeah,
for us to borrow from the bond market as of October, was the last I heard, over a 25-year period, because we had to pay back 10.5 years. Interest rate.
so we don't have any problems like that anywhere else in the city, right?
I think we know of right now.
Not having any failures, what we have?
Nothing up north where the development's coming, I can tell you that. We're investing heavily there, so.
Thank you, Jason, I appreciate it.
Hey, Mayor, what, Justin, you might expand a little bit on that development team. We require, if it impacts the system to where an upgrade has to be done to accept their flow, it has to be paid up front by the developer.
We knew that, but.
Now, if it doesn't, and it's just minor things, it can be paid in phases
Yeah.
as they go. But if it's an impact, so the ratepayer is not financing the subdivision, the developer pays that up front.
And then the residential portion pays that in the block fee and all that.
It passes.
All the calculated, yeah.
It's just a way to help,
Not sure.
cover us, cover the ratepayers who've been here for years and years and years.
I'll brag on the electric system, it really does well, I know got the governor of electric here. But we covered a whole lot more miles.
Yeah.
Right away, like I say, is that a problem? That's not a problem in the city, is it? Not a big problem?
Not a big problem, once you get to some of the, activities, things like that.
Roadways, or even roadways and all those kind of things with water problems or sewer problems and things like that. I know we've got, places where it's had to be done. One especially out there at the Shell Station off of North Main, that plate's been laying there for 2 years now.
No money or like.
Not North Main, Union Street, Union,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one right there has been there for about 2 years, I guess.
It has, and I'll give you a little insight into that. So my crew was out there shooting elevations. We've done the order to pipe, and then the sewer line collapsed on, South Canyon. So then I got hit with the lead and copper survey. They mandated it be completed by a certain date, 2026. They used the whole crew. I have sewer lines that collapse on a daily basis on road crossings where people's residential houses can't discharge the sewer. So I have another crew that works on that almost 5 days a week. So then I'm left with a water service crew that's doing water leaks, meter tie-ins, meter installations, replacement of antennas, domes. So when I tell you that my men are very, very busy, that plate's the highest thing on my priority list. It is next in line every time that I turn around. And I know the state hates it. I know y'all hate it, and trust me, I want it gone.
Well,
It's a very complicated.
I just wonder what's going on there.
It's a very complicated repair cause that storm sewer that crosses that lot there and the T-Dot right of way was installed in around the 40s. And they run it through the top slab of this box culvert. So I'm having to design and form in something that wasn't meant to be there. That reduces capacity and still make it work and be repaired at a later date. We're gonna get it, one day.
And these roadways, like Remington Farm May, we're looking at traffic studies, Tom, am I correct, maybe about lane, additions, turning lane and those kind of things like that. Most of your water and sewer lines out that way, 41A, going toward Unionville, most of that is on, off to the side, so it's not, is that right, or are they in the middle of the road?
Gun roads. So when the roads get widened, that'll be something we'll be looking at. If it ends up falling in a drive lane, I can assure you it won't be in the drive lane no longer.
Okay.
We will make sure that those are moved outside of drive lanes, just like we did on North Main Street, 2013, 14, and 15, we moved them all out. We're trying to move out and avoid issues, and right of way is always the problem. That was the problem on 231, that's the problem on 231 South, is right of way acquisitions. So, we will be, the water and the sewer both is in the shoulder of the road.
And that Remington Farms actually, John, is a major benefit to the system if it gets developed to be able to loop that water to stop outages, that they're all on one line which just branches off of it. And when you have it's, I'll think,
Josh,
Councilman Webb. Were bad and everybody got out of water every time there was a break. That's not the case. It's because there's not a loop, and that would really, if we had a loop, if Richardson Farms was developed, and we could loop that, we could valve off and isolate when there's a problem. We could isolate it down to a narrow amount of customers that are out instead of everybody on Union Street and on both sides being out. So.
Would that improvement fall like equally between the city and the developer though? Would the development, the developer
Pays for it.
hold the cost with that, for that?
The
Or
developer
will
pays
the
for it.
city will fully pay for it?
so those loop feeds, we require those loops to be tied in so that we don't have dead ends for distribution and collection for I'll try out my things in Hale City Cases. So they're indirectly having to do it for their water quality, but in turn, we're reaping the benefits of that also.
That's absolutely good to know, because as many times as that project's come before the planning commission, never heard that perspective. So that actually helps us to
The
understand.
reason I wanted to say it, we said it about 10 times, so I was thinking,
Yeah.
I hear it this time.
I think
We
it was brought up
just want to make sure in the annexation, you know, there's a lot to that, annexation of property, but how does it affect Shelbyville Power, Water and Sewer? How does it affect everything, as far as growth in Shelbyville?
That's, that's the beauty of the pre-planning meetings.
Yeah.
We John and Jared, they're gonna shoot you straight on whether we think it's, a positive or a negative for the utility. And so that's when you're gonna find out about it. And hopefully those comments are made in the letter towards the planning commission and ultimately the law.
They are.
That's 231 North Corridor, that's currently serviced by Shelbyville. There was one of the talks where you were mentioned that when you were at the comptroller's meeting there back in the fall. Did they ever get in contact with you guys and have any of that discussion? Are they still talking about you? Or that should be?
To be talking behind my back, because I've not received the first phone call from anybody.
We're usually the last, yeah.
That long-term lease, the long-term lease you're talking about, that million, 231 area, when does that expire? Like, what was do you know what the long-term, contract was, 99 years?
No, I believe, I think the city, is it a 25-year, is that the length of time that y'all, is that the furthest y'all can get a franchise or something?
General contracts.
Okay.
I did not know, like, saying that I didn't know.
I'll have to do some research.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you said it was signed in the 90s, you're getting close to it being.
Yeah, I want to say it was early 2000s, of course, a lot of that conversations started happening in the late 90s when Walmart was looking to expand or build.
So maybe close.
So it could be coming up. With all that property, all that area being developed the way it is now, there's no telling how much it would cost Shelbyville to apply those customers. You have to purchase that territory from Duck River, and then for the existing customers that was there, you have to take 10 years worth of lunch for it. It could be astronomical.
And in the future, we probably need to get Atmos in here also. I mean, when we get into expansion of the city, a lot of people might want gas. We've got a subdivision or two, out 41A that wanted natural gas, and they never could supply it. They supplied for Johnson across the street, but that other development over there, they tried to get natural gas for years. I guess they just didn't do when the development. I think we have a franchise agreement for that as far as service. And then every county utilities is serving natural gas, correct?
They do, it's a few hundred. Mainly their reason in getting into the natural gas business with chicken balls.
We have to look at all those services, because people might want that, but that's not nice.
The store, I think, Brad's Market, the old Brad's Market, that's the last Atlas serves. Everything past that, I believe, is Bedford County too.
I think so too, and these folks are caught in the twenty, and I've gotten, every time I see one or two of them, they'll say, when are you gonna get natural gas out here?
I'm saying the same thing, I'm loving money.
But that's something to look at as well.
Got any other questions for this?
All right, it's question and answer with city departments, are there, is the next item on the agenda? Is that for Buck and the police department, the fire department, everybody, is that what, we put that on that? Okay,
Hats off to Buck and his department too. Excellent job that they did on,
we followed Buck and the police department, fire department, this ice storm situation, taking care of it. So it's right on the job.
On page one, sounds coming out, some track signaling, while we had such a bit of view. I just think, well, on the top, so correct. First, Jared, will we give you overview? I'll let them give the overview about selling details.
I think our newest traffic signal, and it's
kind of new. It was upgraded to support 37 bypass. And we upgraded that using the quick protected camera system, radar system, stuff out there. But the rest of it, one massive, we had to replace the box and everything that somebody ran into. But the rest of the traffic signals have been up quite a while. And speaking to Jerry, just about we're going to go on inventory for the cameras that we use to run those traffic signals. They're obsolete. A lot of the boxes that we have, internal parts that are becoming obsolete. The city's going to have to start making an investment every year to start getting these intersections and everything back up to standard of where we would be. Jared and I have been working on it, and Jared's got some pretty exciting things too with it. Well, some of the software and everything else out there that he could possibly run that from his office if we needed to, instead of going out on site and doing the things that we do. So that's what I'm, Jared, I'll let you speak to it a little bit more and go from there.
Yeah, so just to give you a little information on how the city, it's city traffic signals, but we just maintain and operate those for the city. So, all our job is to try to keep them up and operation. So, some of the, you have the main brains of the cabinet, which is the controller, and then you have detection, which is what detects the vehicles to say, hey, I need to turn this side green, this side red, the whole 9 yards. So those are two of your main critical components inside these cabinets. This equipment that we have and that we're having to try to maintain is 1990 model equipment. And for the longest, just to give a little background on this, Temple Incorporated is our main traffic light vendor that we purchase all of our products through. But in the past, for a long, long time, even till probably 5 years ago, these controllers and processors have been able to send back to Temple anytime there was a failure. They would fix anything wrong with it and we can get it back to us. As we try to continue this process, Temple has let us know that all the technology has gone from old coax technology to new IP Ethernet-based products. And they can no longer get a handful of any parts to fix anything with processor or control. So that being said, my job, all I can do is use what we do have that is technically still operating. But as soon as we run out of the last inventory, which we are very, very soon quickly, we are going to have to start upgrading these intersections one by one as the schedule is allowed. So say our inventory goes out, we have a cabinet go down, we will have to completely change that cabinet out. The next day, another one can go out, and then another one. And each traffic signal that goes out, we're having to completely upgrade it with a very expensive component. Just to give you an idea, there's 3 different types of detection that we can use. 2 different companies that use a basic detection, and the difference between those is 26,000 and 36,000 to upgrade. And then on our high miles per hour roads, which the bypass falls in that category, 231 out, the bypass area, those require radar detection for advanced long detection because of the high speed traffic, 55 miles an hour zones. That comes up to around $46,000 a month. What me and Buck have talked about in the past is, however, the financial side of it needs to happen. Is each intersection we upgrade, I can take those components that are still good out there and use those as spare parts. Goal is we want to get to the end technology, right? But if we can change 3 amount a year, that's more spares to let us buy others in sections until we continuously get these traffic signals change that. So it's been made aware of our company, the city, that this is a very, very important situation. I know there's been complaints about certain intersections of
backups, like peacock, 231, certain times of the year, the sun is blinding the camera. And then the technology that's out there, there's nothing that's going to fight it. If we go out there and put a random call on that, and sometimes green all the time, when you know, night, when the semis come through that intersection, it's going to go beside you, you know, it's not something. So this 30-minute window of the sun blinding this camera, all of this is a all day, every day fix that makes the intersection not operating efficiently possible. So using the new technology as the radar technology, 50 to mitigate this sun issue. So there's things that can be fixed to help us at these high traffic intersections, but it's going to take money. But traffic is a very important part of the city. And one thing we also have to realize is these intersections are work, a lot of them are working efficiently. We have done some of that high traffic volume, which cause traffic related. It's just not the intersection itself, the waiting. So that's a little bit of the, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, no, we have looked at different, you know, a 360 camera instead of 4 cameras that we have out there now. We're looking at different things to try to limit the cost that we're going to have. Some of the prices that, you know, you're saying, that's not labor, that's not anything else, that's just.
Oh, yeah, that's just getting the components to Shelbyville power source to us, so that's not even the cost of anything.
Lisa, when that maps and they ran into that control box, was that 47,000? So I mean, it's an investment with the growth, even if we're growing, you know, 1.7%. Things are obsolete, it's going to be an investment that the city's going to have to start getting in there. We have looked at the TMSP grant that comes around. It's getting better, but we go apply for it, I think 3 times. And what they want in order to get the upgrades to the traffic signals is that now you got to approve all the sidewalks that go around those, and then you start adding costs, takes away the cost of improving your life. I think our 2 oldest ones are Thompson and Belmont. Those are the 2 oldest ones that we have. I know Thompson is the oldest.
Thompson and the one at the time, way,
Yeah. Yep.
the one at the time, there doesn't have it, you can have to pay for it. It's going to make sense.
It's not. It's so, like, they're all over. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
This is right, idea, not a double intersection.
28. And that could be plus or minus. We've had bypass and. Right now, the only high-speed intersections that I can recall is 3. We've got Peacock, bypass, but it's got medium, which was pipe. We airport is that's sorry, yes, in airport.
Those are not mostly newer intersections, so it's like, you know, it's.
The only 2 that we have the newest equipment in is the bypass and Madison and Midpoint, and the only reason Madison got upgraded is with the point. We do have newer intersections, you are correct, but KDOT allows the fully to go in now in that time frame.
Yeah.
Which is no bullshit.
Going forward, any new intersections coming in the city will be there.
We would not feel it. And that's why the 6 newest ones only make 1 time. And we'll touch on it a little bit, this isn't, not have to, but
a small fee, they had this new technology that you could put in the movement base cabinets. So the company says, hey, they're saying that's holding up on this page, this was their check. I can, if it's new technology, I can pull it up on my, investigate it, potentially have it fixed within minutes versus getting my vehicle, having to go out there, try to assess the situation. And sometimes the issue that occurs, by the time you get out there, you might not be able to see that issue. It could speed the potential troubleshooting for themselves. Just to go along, you know, saying, but the thing upgrades that we have to do, you can no longer get facility pressurized street lights, so we can switch them over to the LEDs, less electrical cost, usage on homes and everything. We're trying to make the upgrades up to save, you know, every dollar that we can, but there are some pretty big investments that we need to make for infrastructure that is not road, sewer, or anything else. It's traffic signals are pretty important. Well, the average daily traffic coming down 231 is just over 50,000. So you think about all the intersections that have traffic lights on that, and I think the police could probably speak to whenever one of those traffic lights goes down, the chaos that is created. So having down an extended period of time because we don't have the parts, it's going to be real problem.
We'll talk about the areas of the growth for police and the fire. There are areas, certain areas of growth that are affecting the coverage and response time in certain areas. See that?
All the slots might be pretty well, average follow and still holding. We've got to hold big.
With us, it's the small, like, they're just about most of all of the developments that are going on. Housing, everything else is in our most vulnerable areas. Know how it would be further out. And, so that, everybody knows we're trying to reconstruct how to fix what we have, and replace what we have, but we have to have this plan pretty quickly. It's the intent. So basically, kick off money here, it's pretty much the epicenter. And as we're going to west, I know there one time bypass, it's, it seems to bypass it back the land on the fair one. It's further than that, it seems to be further out. Everything is there, everything's going the wildlife, that is all the small buildings together. It very detrimentally affect by so already the building God.
Are there ways you go off the station?
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, if it's, if we approve one subdivision, that area, it doesn't matter if it takes 10 years to get that built out, as soon as there's a residence on it, I've got to put it folks this, so, it's all this stuff is approved, taken in, a lot of it's getting that. We're immediately in a deficit with the problem.
If I could, is there any plans in the future for talking about infrastructure? For expanding roads? I live on Jennings Lane. That's one of the most traveled roads in the city. I've had 2 elderly ladies run off of Jennings Lane here for the last 3 months. We've had 3 accidents down at the end of Jennings Lane the last 2 months. Jennings Lane is one of the most traveled roads, but it don't have any shoulders. Is there any plans in the future to expand that?
Between Jennings going around Shaw, coming out Peacock, you know, that sees an average, daily traffic of over 5,000, which matches our bypass, which is incredible. So the amount of traffic that goes down through there, the city does not have, there's county property and then there's city property that goes down through there. So there's a little bit of a question in that. I would rather improve what we have to where people don't want to take Jennings Lane and get around there because it's, you know, keep it going through town, keep it moving. Like, improvements to the intersection at 41A and, Lane Parkway. Improvements there would make more people just go that way. Right now they don't, because especially when school is letting out, down there at Thomas Baggett Center, I mean, it gets real backed up back there and everything else. So there are plans for improvements. Some of the other ones that are heavy traffic, it was like, Midland, out that way, Fairfield Pike. That one there sees just as much traffic as what bypass does. So we have had discussions and everything, but you know, when you start talking those things, when you're doing widenings and everything, you start talking 20 million, 30 million by the time that you, purchase all the right of way and all the things that are needed to do it properly.
But we putting the price on a person's life.
I'm not putting the price on nobody's life.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
saying, we've had 2 elderly people run off that road within the last 3 months.
I'm all for widening it. All I need is money.
And now we've got another development that's supposed to be coming in on Shaw Road. And Shaw Road is another example. It needs to be widened. There's no shoulders on Shaw Road. I know that's the county. But is there any way we can work with the state? If the state's not going to extend the bypass that Matt was talking about, can we get the state to cooperate with us to do something since the people are using these 2 roads to get either to Josh's or to Morel's? And that's what they're using as a bypass. And somebody's going to wind up getting killed. I don't want to put a price on anybody's life. These 2 elderly ladies that run off that road here recently, one of them could have very well been killed.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to put a price on anybody's life. But if we have worked with the state, we're looking at other types of grants and everything. The problem is I know you're specifically speaking about Jennings, but what about Fairfield? I mean, what about Midland? There's a lot that needs to be improved. And you can't eat an elephant all at once. You got to eat it one bite at a time. And I think that's what we're trying to do within the city. Pick our areas where the development's coming in, try to improve those. And, you know, Jennings, I would agree with you. It gets a lot of traffic. But there's a lot of other roads that are substandard that get a lot of traffic as well, that accidents do occur on as well. So, no, I would never put a dollar figure on anybody's. If I had my way, I think that all the roads would be 3 lanes. So.
So that, the property that is that the responsibility of the developer?
No, no. I think that's out of where the emergency services are different. What we call infrastructure services, lanes on the infrastructure side. Now offset what somebody else can do. Really, if it looks like fun, that you have
It would be the same with the school. So as we increase that neighborhood, we need new schools built to accommodate that area of road. The school system that the county then has to figure out how we can build those schools to accommodate that. There will be students that are coming in our parts. It's not, it's directly impacted, but not infrastructurally direct, you know, it's catch 22 kind of thing. So we can reflect the developer because the land's being developed and we can incorporate what they need for utilities to be able to make that development, but when it comes to schools and police department and fire department and whatnot, that falls back on the city and county. Because it's not just gonna affect them, it's gonna affect our schools, it's gonna affect my kids. And we don't have to have how.
That's a Howard question.
I believe you was asking a question about our development.
Well, I think you might have misspoken, substations. We talking about it in a fire station or something like that, but not on the development phase, it's basically access. What we're saying is, that this is something been going on out west for years due to water capacity and things like that. It's making its way, especially into the region, where no more water, left, so at some point you're going to run out. That's when you talk TVA and building, breaking on down, to more storage. And so that's where the things on the front of it is to build all those impacts. Very similar to what the city, the impact fee discussion gets brought up, that your hands get tied with legislature.
Our property taxes go to fund those types of services, but you gotta build the houses first to start collecting the property taxes, to have the coffers to be able to then turn back into development for our police department and emergency services and whatnot, but it's catch 22, because we don't have it on the front end, but we have to build, we need more property taxes coming into the city coffers. But without the development, you don't get more property taxes without actually raising property taxes. So we want some property taxes first. So we're caught between a rock and a hard place with where we're at. But what we have in the coffers to be able to build it versus what we have coming in.
But as Jason mentioned, it's only accident when it was on the green talks, for instance. If it's so many good talks, you know that we're being police, fire, school, et cetera, so this, I think Councilman Glover's going to slow down on that, it's like, all these things, well, are on us.
And it doesn't need to fall on the property.
That's fine.
The property taxes, because those folks have been here forever and all that, but there is some point where we have to look at property taxes. But my thoughts are, and Ginger, of course, has told us over and over again, we're not in a position to do impact fees from Flint, isn't that correct, Tim? But what we would like to do is increase those developer fees, when folks are applying for building, construction, things like that, so that we can kind of cover ourselves a little more as far as the city, and also look at the infrastructure, not only for that particular lot or piece of property, but kind of the roadway out in front of it, and all kinds of different things like that.
And I think that in March, that thing that he talked about going on, I think that we're gonna talk about that, and I say infrastructure, that's what I'm, police, that's all the needs, fire, things like that, and if there are new ways, that we need to be on the cutting edge of it, because we're right here in the crosshairs of development and growth, and I think they need to continually be searched or vetted and talked about, because we don't want to put all that in the taxpayers. I mean, they should pay their fair share in things. We'll have to do as they will, but we've got to look if there is something out there.
I feel the same way as the growth of we got to a point, Parks and Recreation, and we touched on those folks. If we got any questions for those, is Trevor here? Yeah. Oh, there you are back there. Did I wake you up, Trevor? Yes, sir. How are we as far as Parks and Recreation? Have you got any comments to make? How about the soccer fields? Can you give us just a brief update on everything that's going on?
Sure. Soccer complex is August
quickly as government allows, government grants allow us. We just, completed the ECS geostudy, report. And it's actually, it's going to be a really good for us, so we're happy about that. As far as our touch field and all that, that's good. We'll, within the next few weeks, it's expected to come back with a full set of plans, and then we'll be getting that out to the works. Yeah, and after that, we'll, hopefully break the ground, put in some road on it. It's moving, it's not spiking as quick as I want to.
How much traffic do you think we get through? And I saw a truck with gas tanks or something on it coming through the park here.
That was our CO2 for green oil.
Do you get a lot of traffic that's trying to get around, going another way, cutting through the park here?
No, people avoid us because of the speed.
Yeah.
I do that, slow it down quite a bit and all those kind of things, but I didn't know about that traffic. As far as, any other developments we have in the parks or rec, any other parks across, it's not only this HV Griffin, but others, are we doing work in those right now?
Well, right now, we're looking at, connecting that river, that we walk through, so that goes by the park. Of course, you know, I've got other plans to do. So, we'll do those on,
Scott, do we have anything else? Anybody know on? Anybody need to, update us on anything? Brian? Good? Paul? We doing work here for? Good job there. Right, I don't have anything else. If no one else has anything else.
Mayor, if I may?
Okay.
I did forget to add K.
Okay.
So as you know, y'all approved for us to acquire a GIS tech back in this budget cycle. And we've had him in here working hard for the last 3.5 months, so I thought y'all might like to see some of the things he's produced.
Okay.
So our first one here is a ward map. So you can click on any property in the city and know who your representative is. Simple, but information.
Is that accessible from the city website?
I don't have that on my iPad, do it.
That's an online map. You access it through the website on the city. We have a sanitation map, same deal. You can see where day your trash picks up.
Speaking of sanitation, do we have any, plans for bringing in recycling, curbside recycling in Shelbyville? Cool, anytime in the future, like, yeah, for to take it to the center, I was just wondering if we ever had, I know that a lot of newbies coming in, moving into Middle Tennessee, they're used to curbside service, and I've always been asked if we are going to be offering, along with our trash service, a curbside recycling option.
You've got commercial and other churches and things like that that have private, they hire like Dean or somebody like that, and that's not correct. I think that's garbage and thing. And then we've got the transfer station we're working on right now to assist us in our costs.
Sorry, my apologies, I didn't mean to, it just, it's a conversation that.
So, of course, our biggest one, the zoning map, which Tom's department provides most of the information. Obviously, whatever your property is zoned as, annexation, city lines, T-Dot infrastructure, what they've been doing things as, very useful for planning and for developers to be able to tell what they can work in the city, and that's updated as changes occur. We have our big project that is currently ramping up, and this is the first layer of it. We're going to be mapping all of the stormwater infrastructure in the city along with all the public work assets. So we'll know where every bridge, stop sign, manhole cover, drain, et cetera is. So that is coming down the pipe. That's a big line there, but. And now while we're building that up and getting ready to start on that, Jackson has totally run off and built up a brand new database for the cemetery. We're gonna have every single grave marked, photos and information in a searchable database. So you can look up anything that's in there, see where it is exactly.
Oh, wow.
Very good. And of course, once it's completed, this will be what will replace our current antiquated database that Ben will be inputting everybody that gets buried from there on out. And once that's up to date, we'll do the smaller outer cemeteries as well. But all completely available online. We can check veterancy status, any information available on the tombstone. It's all very searchable. So that's pretty good for 3.5 months, I'd say.
Good job, Jackson.
Good job.
Good job.
Well, anyone else have anything? Ben, you have anything to update us on?
I'll take more land, I'm not going to buy it. No.
Anyone else have anything? If not, let's adjourn this meeting.